One of the additional things that Richard and I did on the Isle of Man was to take a look at the Great Laxey Mine Railway, which is just along from Laxey Station on the Manx Electric Railway. Now, we had to be there on a Saturday as it's only open for 1 day a week. The railway nestles in the natural valley formed by the old mine washing floors. Now, return fare is just £3, but we were pleased to see that it also accepts our Go Explore passes.
They take the Go Explorer.
They take the Go Explorer, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, saves us £3.
Is that right? Yeah.
Good morning, Richard.
Hello, John.
Oh, back in the Isle of Man?
Well, we never went away, really, did we?
No, not really, I suppose that's true. And back to Laxey.
Yes, here we are
And where
again.
are we? Where are we now?
We're at the Laxey Mines Railway at Terminus.
Yeah.
Train due any minute, apparently. No timetable, it just sort of goes when it's full up, I think. Yeah.
Right, so you're going to go on the mine railway, and then it'll probably be time for somebody to eat and maybe
A little drinky poo.
a little drinky poos, and then Richard will relax by the tram stop,
Yes.
and I might just go down there to have a look at Laxey. And here comes one of the railway's 2 locomotives. Now, both locomotives were built in Darlington in 2004 to the original 19-inch gauge. And they are broadly speaking replicas of the engines that ran at the mine but were scrapped in 1935. Now, obviously, to enter the mine, they had to have a very, very tight loading gauge, and so therefore we squeeze ourselves into one of these tiny carriages to hear what our host Rachel has to tell us about the mine.
We've got a diagram there, so it shows the Laxey wheel, and it just shows the proportion of the wheel in comparison to all of the mine workings. So the wheel was built in 1854, and the mine workings are greater in height than the scale of Snae Fell. So it was one of the most profitable mines in the whole of the British Isles. Conditions were quite tough for miners. It was it could be quite dangerous. So they were using hand tools and dynamite, and it was very kind of dark and damp down there, so they get wet quite quickly. They didn't have any waterproof clothing, and all they had was kind of like a candle, affixed to the front of their helmets. If they were going to the very lowest depth of the mine, which was Dumble Shaft, which was this one here, it would take probably around about an hour to climb down. It was tough for them. They did around about 8-hour shift. So whilst the mines were very profitable, their wages were less.
Yeah, well, funny that, isn't it?
I think there was about a couple of strikes.
So is it mostly zinc and lead? That was mine?
Yes. And then the leads contain quite a high silver content, and that's what made the mines very profitable.
Oh, right.
And then as for the zinc, I think we mined as much zinc in one day as all of the metal mines in Great Britain put together.
Right.
So it was quite a significant operation. And then behind you here are the washing floors. So once they'd taken the material out of the mine, they would bring it back here, and they would dump it on the lower level here, and it was mainly women and children who worked on this level. And then they would kind of do the process of sifting and crushing and shaking the rock, and then that was to separate the metals from the rock, and then to take away the waste material. Everything got shipped to South Wales, and they would take it down from here, and it was on a pony was pulling a wagon on tram lines. They would take it down to Laxey Harbour, and then it would all get shipped across. The only reason they didn't do it over here was because it was too expensive to import the coal needed to do it. Otherwise, I think they would have done.
Oh,
Good, thank you very much.
that's brilliant, thank you.
And we're off on a short ride under the roadway, and that certainly gives you a very good idea of the cramped tunnels in the mine itself. Rachel continued with a very interesting commentary, although the microphone on the camera obviously struggled when we got inside the tunnel itself. It was quite smoky in this little tunnel, so heaven knows how bad it was actually in the mine. It mentions on the railway's website that the management had the miners burn bonfires in the mine to test how well smoke from a train would clear, and as a result, they thought it was fine to proceed having steam engines inside the mine.
This is fun.
The original engines were built by Stephen Lewin of Poole in Dorset and were delivered in April 1877. Prior to then, the ore was dragged out by men and subsequently by ponies. Time to extract ourselves from this little carriage, and we'll wave Ant and Richard goodbye, and then I'll have a quick walk up to the Laxey wheel. So yes, that was really interesting going on the mine train, and the lady with her voiceover and her information was so helpful and kind. So Richard's ridden back because he's not really up for this slightly hilly walk, just to get a little look at Laxey Wheel. Got to do that when you're in Laxey, haven't you? So won't be paying the entrance fee or anything, just a quick look at this huge water wheel going round and round right there, and then back down and meet Richard. The Lady Isabella was inaugurated in 1854 to provide the power to pump out the water from the lower levels. Now the wheel has a diameter of 72 feet and 6 inches. When the mine closed, the wheel was due to be scrapped, but local builder Edwin Neal stepped in to buy it and restore it for posterity, and it is now owned by the Manx government. So I'm not sure what the lady's discussion in the train, how much of it came through on the microphone here, but she was saying how that the depth of the mine underneath where we were sat was actually deeper than the mountain is above. So the mountain's about 2,000 feet high, and the workings of the mines underneath our feet are more than 2,000 feet down, and that actually the miners would take about an hour to climb down to the lower levels before they could even start work. Quite an undertaking. And of course, as she said, highly profitable of course for the mine owners, not so profitable for the miners. Right, let's get back to the railway. These little carriages are lovely, and I take my hat off to all the volunteers that have brought this little line back to life and continue to provide this quirky little railway sideshow. As we return, Rachel continues to be a mine of information. Sorry. And on our return, we get to see a mock-up of what life might have been like pushing a truck through the darkness. Rachel also gives us a little history of how this preservation came about. As Rachel says, work started on the line in the year 2000, and it finally opened in 2004. Since then, there have been extensions and improvements to transform the line into what we see today. And there's Richard watching a video about the mines. He will head out directly to Laxey Station now, but I'm going to loop down through the old washing floors to the quayside. Over by the engine shed is Ant's sister loco B. I half expected it to be called Deck. And further on, the shed itself just looks like an engineer's grotto. However, I think it's time that I had a look at the valley gardens, which now take the place of the old washing floors. And from there, we can also carry on down to have a look at the quayside at Laxey, where all this ore was shipped away. The valley is, of course, a lovely place to watch the electric tramway traversing its way on towards Ramsey. Right, let's head on down to the water and then follow it and see if we can get to the quayside. All the washed ore would have been moved down the riverside, although I'm sure it looked very different in those days.
Well, it's certainly a decent walk down here to the quayside, but I've started now, so we'll keep going.
And soon the green and red markers on the bridge stand as twin totems to Laxey's harbour area. And with its palm trees and tethered yachts, it looks a whole lot different to a quayside that was built to shift hundreds of thousands of tons of metal ore. Oh, and the warehousing here implies that there may also have been a wider trade. In 2025, on a beautiful day in May, this is a lovely place to relax by the sea. And as I walk along the front, there are many who are doing just that. But I've got Richard and maybe a nice drink waiting for me at the top, so I'll head on back to the main town and bid you goodbye from Laxey and its lovely little mine railway. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at the industrial heritage of the Isle of Man as much as I have. I can thoroughly recommend a stop at this charming little railway and its beautiful bay. But for now, it's goodbye from Laxey and thank you so much for watching.